Sociocracy requires that for any meeting, somebody can moderate it, which I'm doing it now, and somebody takes the minutes. And Alina have volunteered to take the minutes, which, so thank you, Alina. And what we will do is we'll put it back, we post it on the same meeting events. So this is the meeting event that we have created for discussions on use of sociocracy. You could see it all, I assume. And it lists who are the, what are the roles. So I'm the moderator, and then there's the participants. And really the aim of this meeting is to see how to implement sociocracy when it comes to customer relations. Many Voices, One Song is really an excellent book on sociocracy as a background for all of us who wants to learn more on sociocracy. I found it very useful. And actually I have a Kindle version of it in here where I use as a reference material all the time. Voices, One Song. Okay, so this meeting event on sociocracy defines the roles, and then I went in with a response trying to really put in the agenda for this meeting, what we'll be discussing. Okay, so the thing about sociocracy is not really just about how to conduct effective decision making. This is only one part of it. Is really the big part about sociocracy is about good governance, about democratic exercises within an organization, about shared power, and where people go into circles, and these circles are interrelated, and there is a flow of information. So sociocracy has a much bigger scope than just about making effective and concept-based decision making. And what I'll try to do in this meeting is to explain the other aspect of sociocracy, how it could help us with our work in the circle customer relationships, and also if we learn how to use it, then probably we in NewsSocial could also help other clients who are using our platform to use sociocracy better. So that's one added advantage. And a third aim in here actually to discover jointly what extent the platform we are using can support the sociocracy business concepts. So that will be very interesting in terms of how people behave in circles, the flow of information, and the governance as a whole. Okay, so this is what we'll do. Before I do that, before I go into number one, which is the decision-making process in sociocracy, I just want to take us back for a few minutes about how did we come at this discussion? How did we come to it? So I'm going to go back. I'll press on this arrow to go back to our circle, and this is the customer relationship circle. And this circle that we are all member of, and we joined it voluntarily, like in sociocracy where people join circles voluntarily to do a job. It is part of a mother circle, which I click on this up arrow, it takes me to the NewsSocial Cooperative, which is we are all in. And this is the mother circle, and it shows various posts and things. And if I click on discussions, on the icon for discussion, it just shows the discussions, the various discussions we had. And one discussion we had, which started on June 14, says developing customer relationship, business plan canvas. This is where we discussed the business plan canvas with the help of Marta in terms of business relationship. And if I open it, then actually it goes and discuss it and arrives with an outcome. So there is an outcome. And what is the outcome? The outcome is to have a sustainable structure in place for providing excellent service to our first customers. We talked about 5 customers, how to make the first 5 customers happy, and how to create a sustainable structure for doing it. And then the board agreed to create a sub-circle that works specifically on this goal. So really that was discussion that involved all the board members, and there was an agreement to create that sub-circle and to have that mission for it, which is to create a sustainable structure for serving the first 5 customers. So this is where we came from. Any circle in Sociocracy has the following structure. So I'll go to the Kindle, to the book, and that shows a circle, okay? And a circle really has 3 things. It has aims, domains, and members. So the members are members who join voluntary, and we have 6 members who join voluntary to the circle, and you are here in this meeting. It has a mission statement, and the mission really, which was defined by the board, by the governing board, to say your mission is to create a sustainable structure that can serve well the first 5 clients. And it has what we call it a domain. A domain is what is our power, what can we do in this circle, and because sometimes circles can overlap if the domains are not very clear. Our domain is clear, really, is to do whatever is needed. And this is where the shared power and sociocracy work, is to do whatever is needed within our circle to make sure that there is a sustainable structure for serving our first few clients. So we have full freedom to do that. And in Sociocracy, we have the power and the freedom, and this is where you have the shared power in Sociocracy to do it, as long as the flow of information is done. And I'll come to the flow of information aspect later. But what we have done so far, we have a circle with 6 members that volunteer. We know what is our mission, and we know what our domain. What we don't know, which is also a requirement, is how the division of labor is exercised within this circle. So a circle must have a lead and must have some kind of division of responsibility, which is something we have to do. We haven't done yet. And that's what Sociocracy demands, so that these circles are effective. So if I go back to our circle, our mission, actually, the first thing that Alina did in the default post is to specify really what is our mission statement. And this is advisable for our clients and any of these circles we create. It's advisable that the first post in it should be by administrator, should define really what the circle is all about, what's its mission statement, what's trying to do, and any other thing that relates to work, like, for example, what are the responsibilities, who is what do they do, and also what is our domain, what is the scope of work that we are. We had a discussion started on July 25, which is identifying the list of priorities. So we know what our priorities are, and there was an outcome to it. And our priorities is 1, 2, 3, 4 is prompt support users through an agile help desk, system for regular one-to-one review meetings with users, ongoing training and consulting, and user community, as defined by this canvas diagram that we have developed together. So really, we have decided in a previous discussion what our priorities. The next step is how to go about it. But then we said, okay, before we decide how to go about it, let's see how Sociocracy apply to us and how we take benefits from it, and hence this meeting. While what we are trying to do in NewsSocial, actually, to cover the whole governance aspect, as to create the ecosystem for cooperation and for organizations having a shared power and democracy. So this is one aspect of Sociocracy, which we went through, and basically, the moderator will make a proposal, and this could be made in a video meeting like the video meeting we are in, or it could be made as part of a synchronous discussion over a number of days. The moderator will make a proposal. He will have to clarify it exactly what the proposal is all about. And making the proposal is, I'll come to it again, is another challenge. Another important thing is how to come up with the right of proposal that everybody understands. This is my proposal, is that we should hold a meeting to decide what is the infrastructure needed to do a proper support to our clients. And then I will ask you, is anybody has an objection? So you don't ask who agrees. You ask what are the concerns and what are the objections. And the way they do it, Sociocracy the process has to be very clear, very explicit. Like I'll go and ask the next one, starting from the right or from the top to bottom. Next one, I'll ask Alina first. Do you have any objection? I'll ask Roberto first. Do you have any objection? I'll ask Michael. I'll ask Marta. I'll ask Mukshi. And then I go back. And if anybody says they have a concern, then you see what is the concern. So we go and modify the proposal. So we say, well, maybe you should modify it. And once the proposal is modified and there is consent, a decision is made, and an action and an outcome comes out of it, and you go to the next step. So this is really the purpose in discussions on Sociocracy, is to arrive at consent. That means it doesn't have to be, when we consent to it, doesn't have to be the decision that I agree with 100%, but I think that decision is safe for the organization, it's not risky, and it is something I could live with because we could build on it. So I would say, for example, well, I agree if it is 3 months project rather than a 6 months project, or I agree on these things. And this is how you arrive at consent. So the purpose is consent, and the purpose of it actually is to move forward all the time. You make actions and you move forward. There's not discussions for the sake of it. And the moderator, his or her role is really to manage the whole thing. And then the colleague who've taken the minutes will record these minutes. In our case, in NewsSocial, the minutes will be recorded in the meeting itself, and then you could close the meeting with the outcome, because you say close it with this outcome. So this is really how the decision-making aspect of Sociocracy, where most of the attention is paid for in the various training sessions I've seen, but I think we have to move forward from that. Okay, then the next point is what makes a good proposal for discussions. One way of doing it, which is actually one can start a discussion beforehand, before the actual meeting. And we've done it several times before in the last few months, actually in NewsSocial. And for example, one proposal by Mick McGowan was on community asset mapping. He started a discussion is, how do we go about community asset mapping? So it's a very broad proposal. How do we go about it? And the discussion actually resulted in a few ideas, and then there was a meeting, and there was another thread, and then the proposal became quite firm. So we have a mechanism in NewsSocial to start a discussion in order to decide how to narrow the thing and decide what to do. And then you have to give people very good notes for the meeting, and some evidence and thought that effort has gone into preparing it. So if we go for any proposal or discussions, probably you need to put background information, and that's available to us in NewsSocial as well. You could put, for example, here we put a background information, read this document, go to this study, see that study, and NewsSocial enable you to embed documents in it, so it makes it very easy to do that. So you have to give it a thought. So deciding clearly what your proposal for the discussion is all about is important. And it can, as I said, it can take the form of informal discussions or using the NewsSocial capabilities to do. What I would like to say is that circles are more than just a container for information and discussion. Is the way people work together and decide to. So then we come to the question of what I call it double linking. I'll just move things around. Okay. Okay, so we come to double linking. And I'm just showing another diagram of sociocracy, quite important about information flow, but I've added names to it. So what sociocracy they say, you know, you have circles like this, they call it a general circle, and you could have a sub-circle, which they call it a departmental circle, a department circle. And they say the whole, and they define the flow of information between the sub-circle and a mother circle in the following way. So they say a sub-circle has its own responsibility and shared power to do what's assigned to do, but it must report, it must have this flow of information between it and the general circle. And the way you do it is that two members of any sub-circle must also be members of the general circle, at least two members. And one of them is a lead, and one of them doesn't have to be a lead. And the role of the two members in the sub-circle, like our customer relationship circle, is actually to inform the board, in our case, the NewsSocial Cooperative, of what they do in there. And then you have other circles. So you have the other circles. You have, they call it something called mission circle, which is another sub-circle, which is, they call it the mission circle, which is actually, it's also another name for the NewsSocial board. So the board meets every 2 months or every 3 months or whatever, and actually design the overall policy. But the actual activities were happens in the general circle, and this general circle has various sub-circles, that like one departmental circle, another departmental circle. So one could be customer relationship, the other one could be development, the third one could be marketing, and then they might have you know, some executives, one or more executives that really work in the general circle, and they report to the mission circle. And this is the way that sociocracy try to define. The question that arises in here is, I mean, sociocracy is not like, I mean, it's a moving concept, always in development. And with new technology, you might say, do we just depend on the two people who are admin in customer relationship to pass the information to the NewsSocial Cooperative, where everybody is in? And that's a question. And the question is, if I am a member, you know, take for example Julian, who's not member of our customer relationship circle, but he is in the board and he would like to see what we do. Can he seize it without us actually, me or Alina telling him? And we would like to do that for Julian and others to do that. And one mechanism we have created is what we call the reference tab. So if I click on reference, and I could see things really in the daughter circle. So I could see discussion of use of sociocracy, which is a meeting event already happening now in our sub-circle. There is let's identify our priorities, another discussion in the sub-circle. So and then I could see other content that from elsewhere to do with which relates to our work. But I could see also what's in the sub-circle. So the question for us is whether in the news, first of all, in sociocracy, if me and Alina, for example, are the two admin in the customer relationship, then really our duty is to inform our colleagues in this circle and the board of what's happening formally. And that could be in various reports. But I would like to suggest that we should make sure the system itself automatically, will actually make members of the mother circle always aware and accessible to what happens in the daughter circle. And this is a question to you in this meeting, whether you see this one as something useful. Can I get some opinion on that one? What do you think, Michael, for example?
So, first of all, thank you, Ali, for the very interesting discussion. It's definitely increasing my understanding of sociocracy or sociocracy. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways. I think what you propose is valid. I'm always thinking when I'm hearing our discussions is how do we translate our terms and processes into the most easily understandable language and shortest command structures so that nobody from the outside, to lower the difficulty of people from the outside, coming into our world. So many times people are creating these incredibly interesting ecosystems, but the entry price to learn a new vocabulary, learn the new rules, sometimes is discouraging, sometimes not. But when it is discouraging, it's only because people are already overwhelmed with protocols that they have to use every day that they barely understand. I always go by the measurement that who really understands every button on their keyboard. Very few people that I've met, except the absolute geeks, and I love them, but they're not everybody. So with that sort of framework, I very much appreciate what you're doing. It's one of the clearest explanations I've heard so far from multiple fronts.
Great. Thank you, Michael. And you think, in terms of information flow, we should make it easy within the system?
Yes.
For people and related circles to access information without really having to try to do so with difficulty.
Yes. I think that will make it second nature for us. And as inside users, if it's second nature for us, we can then help communicate to the outside users how it can become second nature to them.
Any other comment from other colleagues, please? You agree with Michael that we should make it easy in terms of the information flow within various circles?
Yes, I think it's very important to make it to make it possible, and to make it possible to do well and to do simply. It seems to me that making up too many rules about how to do it is maybe not helpful. On the other hand, if one doesn't make up any rules, then it can be very anarchic and so on. It seems to me that there are also, related to this, there are of course responsibilities as to how the sharing of what's going on gets done. So it's managing, though. No, I don't want to say managing really, but it's treating each other well through those relationships. And of course, the element of sociocracy, of consent, but not necessarily having to love the thing that you're consenting to, is very helpful in this, because by consent and by being prepared to negotiate about real objections, it's something where you're I think resolving the trust issue quite well, because you're saying, well, it may be a little bit risky, but it's worth it. It's good. So there's a common sense about what to do. And because that common sense is there, if that's always maintained carefully, which maybe can be done by using, the consent thing across the board, yeah, I think that can help the flow of information to be treated quite simply as, yes, you know, what's in the subcircle, if it's important, it should definitely be available to people who are in the super circle and who aren't in the subcircle, right? Now, how far do you have to go to find a mechanism for doing it? I suspect that if one has sufficient sociocratic discussions across the subcircle, super circle boundary, you know, every now and again, things like that would help make it really viable to do that in a quite relaxed way without inventing too much language. I mean, to take an example from somewhere else where it's completely disgusting and awful, right, is that cookies do an amazing amount of information sharing. Yeah? And it's really profane. Yeah? It's awful because different companies use them for different bad reasons, but also, of course, for terribly good reasons and for terribly important things and so on. And it's a wilderness. I don't know how many of you have ever read through the sort of cookie encyclopedia for the you know, the ones that one is accepting, whatever. Yeah. So that's that kind of technically driven thing is, I think, to be avoided. And so I think what I'm saying is that, yes, I think it's very important, the information sharing, and that maybe using the sociocratic method, even in the information sharing, yeah, might be one way of relaxing about it a bit, and then being able to say, well, of course we share the things.
Okay, very good. And can we just have 5 minutes discussion whether to say whether we should, our next step should be a meeting to discuss how to go about it, or we should open a discussion about it. So I think a proposal will be to have a meeting to discuss what is needed to make a reality of these priorities. And for example, one of the ideas that will come up is well, whatever you do, whatever priority of the 4 that we have listed, you need a certain infrastructure, what it is. So maybe we should have you know, let's call it a brainstorming meeting to say these are the priorities, what is needed to make them a reality. And that could be the outcome of our meeting. You know, that could be one thing that we agree. So I would, if I'm the moderator, I would say, you know, do you agree that we should have a meeting to discuss how to go about these priorities? So you know, starting with Alina, do you think we should have a meeting to discuss how to go about them, having decided what they are?
Yes.
Do you have any objection to having such meeting?
No.
Michael, do you have any objection to having such meeting within the next 2 weeks?
No, I don't.
Roberto?
No, I don't.
Marta?
No, I don't. But I think that it has to be like a brainstorming and really open to, because there are 5 priorities and we have just the details, the titles of each of them. But I think that we have to go deeper and, you know, in an open way, and then we will focus on the main ones or the important ones for each of them. Okay, fantastic. So Marta, in relation to what you said about how we have to go deeper, I mean, we could modify the proposal. So sorry, I'll have see what Mukshi says, then I'll come back to what Marta was saying. Mukshi, do you have any objection to having a meeting that, you know, shortly in the next 2 weeks on to decide how do we go about them?
No, sir, no objection.
Okay, so I mean, Marta, I'm trying to follow how sociocracy works. So from what Marta have said is that we have to go deeper and understand fully what is really involved, so the meeting is useful. So does this, I could modify our proposal to say we'll have this meeting, but we'll precede it by a discussion beforehand on what is needed to make them possible. So we open a discussion thread which can last for 2 weeks, could start today and end up in 2 weeks, end up by the meeting where we hope that next discussions can bring up ideas and make it more mature discussions when we do the meeting. Would that help, Martha?
Yes, and then like a brainstorming, or right, there are different tools in Miro or to share the ideas of each of the priorities, and then, well, to share together these ideas that we have, each of us has created or has developed.
Okay, so the idea of having a discussion beforehand, there might be other ways, but one idea is discussion beforehand, where we go into it and probably use Miro as part of it to develop the ideas further. So when we have the meeting, things would have gone a bit forward, and people are more aware of what's involved. Right? Okay. So what we have in front of us is a proposal to have a meeting, let's say in 2 weeks' time, but we could define exactly a time suitable for both, preceded by some discussions on what is needed to make these priorities a reality, using such tools as Miro if need to, but we'll make them available for these discussions. Do you have any objection to this one, Michael?
No, I don't.
Roberto?
No.
Martha, I think you agree with this. I'll take it. Alina?
No, no objections.
Mokshi?
No.
Okay, so in a way, I tried to use Sociocracy and say we arrive at a consent, we have a way forward, and we make it a reality. And so I hope so what we have covered the last point in our meeting was this example, which I hope is useful. We talked about information flow, and this is a continuous thing, and we talked about how we make our circles really working together and deciding together to accomplish our mission. And hopefully that could be part of the governance thing that could be expanded. And I think that was very useful. Thank you very much of doing it. And that's about it. Thank you very much for your time. It's been really fantastic to have you. Okay, and the minutes will go on the same meeting, and we'll know about it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ali.
Thank you, Ali. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It was nice to see you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.